Micron stock just made me £200, no, £300 overnight. I only invested them yesterday. How? Well, let's dive right into this video. Welcome back to Personally Invested, the channel dedicated to helping you build a lifestyle you love living today whilst investing for you tomorrow. So as I said, Micron stock has made me £300 overnight for an investment of £1,500 literally less than 24 hours ago. Is that not crazy? So I hate channels that get into deep technical jargon. When it comes to investing, it's really simple. Buy low, sell high. All the theory, all the fundamental analysis, all the technical analysis in the world doesn't matter. The only decision that matters is whether you actually bought the stock low at a good price and sold the stock higher than a point at which you bought it. So let's keep this simple. What does Micron do? Why did I invest in them? And what am I going to do from this point on? Well, to keep it simple, Micron is a US semiconductor company that makes memory chips. Why is that important? Well, for AI, you need two things. You need memory and you need GPUs. You need processors, right? Memory stores the large language models. Processors do the calculations and run the models in order to give you the answers or the output that your AI model, that is requested from an AI model. You could have all the processing power in the world, but if you don't have enough memory to store the model in the first place, you can't run the AI model, right? And right now, in the AI market, there is massive demand for memory. However, the supply of said memory is limited. And as a result, prices are going straight through the roof. And who is the beneficiary of these increased prices? Well, it's limited to only a handful of companies, really. Micron being one of the beneficiaries of it. However, they're only number 3 player. Number 1 is SK Hynix, a South Korean company. Who's literally the market leader in memory. They have over 60% market share. And Samsung, 2 South Korean companies that dominate number 1 and number 2 in the global space for memory. However, it's not very easy for the majority of Western investors to invest in these South Korean companies. However, Micron, being the number 1 leader in the US for memory, it's going to see a massive influx of the capital in the market for Western investors to allocate. And that's just what's been happening. It's simple economics. Demand is outpacing supply. Supply being constricted and limited to a handful of companies means that the only thing that they can do is increase prices. And those increased prices and high demand leads to ridiculous revenues, ridiculous net income, and EPS at the end of the day for shareholders. And that's just what we've seen with Micron reporting earnings not too long ago. They have sold out of all of their 2026 supply of memory, and they expect to see this ridiculous demand continue into 2027. As a result, investors are piling in to this company and a lot of AI semiconductor companies because that's where the growth is. We're currently in a thematic market dominated by AI, and that's what is attracting capital and investment, not just from retail investors, but heavily from Wall Street. Now, I'm already late to the game when it comes to investing in Micron. At the point at which I invested in, they're already up over 500%. Come on, take a look at the screen with me. So at the point of my investment, Micron had already climbed from around $85 per share since last April to around $542 per share, which is where I started my investment, right? So I'd already missed the bulk of Micron's run up. However, as you can see, yesterday I made my investment of around 1.5k, around the $560 range. And since then till now, Micron, I've seen a 15% return on my investment. Obviously, the share price has climbed to highs of over $675 per share. On Wednesday, it's now settled around the $650 range. And as you can see, that's returned me around £115 per share. However, this isn't the only account that I own. Myself and my wife are both investing across both of our ISAs. So this number sits closer to £230. However, I've seen it climb to around £300 since the point of my investment till now. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the power of investing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to time the market. You just need to make the right decision when it comes to buying, when it comes to selling. You can miss the majority of the gain, but as long as you still hop in the right stock at the right time, you can still capture some gains that still outpace the market. 15% in 24 hours is more than the S&P 500, which is around 10% over the course of a year. So what next? Do I expect this astronomical skyrocketing of Micron stock to continue and across other semiconductor stocks? No, I don't. Demand like this is definitely unsustainable. I know there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, this is different. This boom, this super cycle of memory is different to all this that happened in the past with the dot-com bubble, the financial crisis in 2022 when the demand evaporated and supply was ramped up. I personally believe that in this occasion, there's a systematic or systemic lack of demand, which is lack of supply of memory that is required for these AI models to run. And AI is here to stay, whether you like it or not. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of AI, but it's here to stay. And as an investor, I need to capitalize on the growing trends and demand in order to make the most bang for my buck with all of my investments. Alright, so when we pull up Yahoo Finance and we search at Micron, a couple of numbers that I want to pull up. Trailing PE around 27, forward PE around 6. Literally the day before yesterday, it was around 4. That's crazy because even though Micron's share price has skyrocketed to around $600 per share, the pace at which it is growing earnings is so fast that it's bringing the price to earnings ratio so far down, far below any other semiconductor stock, only rivaled by SanDisk, which also sits around a similar PE range. It's cheaper than AMD's forward PE, cheaper than Nvidia's forward PE, cheaper than Intel's forward PE. So on a valuation perspective, Micron is, even at this growth rate, appears to be a deal. Let's look at analyst estimates for what they expect the stock to do in the next couple of months and years. Now, analysts expect Micron to grow sales at 191% by the end of the year. Almost tripling their business. And next year to grow around 55%. Obviously, a massive decline in sales or revenue growth, but still significant. And when we take a look at earnings, they're expecting Micron to report 600% growth in earnings compared to the S&P 500's average of 21%. And next year to do 74% growth in earnings. Absolutely ridiculous. No wonder the forward PE ratio is so low. And to try and find these sorts of growth rates in the market is rare. So for me at this point, I understand that I'm taking more of a risk investing at Micron at these sorts of levels where it's run up so far already. However, the stock market is not backwards looking, it's forward looking. Therefore, it doesn't matter what the stock price has done in the past. It matters what investors think or believe a company is going to do in the future. Therefore, if investors believe and have significant confidence that Micron is going to continue to grow at ridiculous rates, the stock price can continue to climb higher and higher and higher. So I could easily see Micron stock going from around $600 per share to $1,000 per share. We've seen it with Tesla, we've seen it with Nvidia, we've seen it with Palantir. The stock market can be very irrational sometimes. And I believe that the key trigger in any downturn or mass selling off of Micron stock will be as a result of faltering demand for memory across the AI sector. Micron's biggest customers are the likes of Nvidia, the hyperscalers, Amazon, Google, Oracle, Microsoft. And these companies are pouring in money into AI infrastructure. And Micron is a massive beneficiary of that. If that demand starts to slow, then I can expect to see a faltering in Micron's share price. And if that happens, it will affect semiconductor stocks across the board. But until then, I'm going to continue investing. I'm going to stay invested because I'm personally invested. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this video. Subscribe if you're new to this channel and you want to see more of this content, because I'm personally invested. The question is, are you?